Well, Andy, we're somewhere different for another one of your monthly supporter question and answer videos. Here we are at the training ground in the refurbished canteen, one of the many improvements the club has made down here.
Yeah, we've made some small improvements over the course of the summer here at the training ground. We sat down with the senior group of players way back in January when we made the change, and we're looking at different areas that we could potentially just improve. What did they want to see? Where could we make some differences? This is one of the big areas. So we've done a major refurbishment into here. We've now got Sky Sports television. We put different menus into place as well. A complete refurbishment of the kitchen, which also services the health club as well. So that's got dual purpose. And elsewhere, the new changing rooms for the first team, really important. This is their place of work. So done a lot of work in there in terms of individual lockers and making that a more professional environment befitting of a professional football club. And on top of that, we put some ice baths in as well, which is something that Eric Eisner was really keen to see. That's probably stage one, phase one. There's plenty more that we want to do down here, as supporters know, and probably something that we'll touch on later on in the interview.
That's off the pitch. On the pitch, it's been a really good start for our men's team. What's your assessment so far?
Yeah, we're obviously delighted with the start that we made. It would be wrong to say otherwise, but equally we recognise it's just that. It is a start. There's a long, long way to go. We look going into the next international window. It was great to get those two victories against Wycombe and then Port Vale to give us that bounce going into it. And then obviously we go for another set of fixtures when we come back into the November transfer window, the international window. So a lot to do there. So that's been encouraging. Equally, we'll look back and think we could have picked another 1 or 2 points out. We don't want to be greedy, but I think it's constantly looking at where we can improve. That's the culture that pervades everything that we're doing at the moment in the first team. So that's good. Absolutely delighted, for the coaches, for John, for Rich, the recruitment team, the analysis team. They've got new medical staff here as well. So really pleased for them that they've made, a flying start. But as I said, we're only 12 games in. There's 34 still to go. So a big part of the season still to play for. But I think after a very challenging September, to get through that run of fixtures, come through unbeaten with a good points haul, and then we can now sort of go into the rest of October and early November, with a spring in our step. And the most important thing is we're seeing lots of smiles on faces amongst the supporters, and it's supporters who deserve the success more than anybody else. So it's good to see, and grateful as well that when we have gone behind a few times this season in games and turned things round, but supporters have stayed with us. And I cannot stress how important that is to the group to see it, because we've got a good togetherness in the squad and we've got a good togetherness amongst the fans, and that is the essential ingredient to succeed.
Pompey women, they're also in the early stages of their season, but they've also had an incredible start to their new era. How have you viewed that?
It's been brilliant for them to go into the season, with 5 out of 6 games won so far. Scoring absolutely plenty of goals. I think in our 125th season they could get to 125 goals the way they're going at the moment. So it's been absolutely brilliant, and I've been able to get down and watch most of the home games at Wesley Park. We had 735 attend the last game on Sunday, which was terrific against Billericay. And it's something we want to continue to grow. We were very conscious at the end of last season that they had a really good season. I think in everybody's eyes they probably outperformed, and we wanted to make sure that we could ensure that they had the platform to retain the best talent, retain the best coaches that they've got. We've got a cracking head coach in Jay Sadler, a team, and that was the decision that Michael Antonanti made, that we'll set up a separate company, we'll invest in the women's team, which is at a great time to do that, and take them semi-professional. So we've been able to not only retain the best talent we had from last season, but add to it. We've got a situation this season where the top team in the National League South and the top team in National League North will both be promoted into the Championship. And it's a big year because there's going to be some significant changes to the structure of the top 2 divisions in women's football. We're in the third tier. If we can get into that tier, then we can share in those rewards and the progressive change that's being made. So absolutely delighted for them as well, delighted in the same way as I am for John and his team, for Jay and his team, and for all the players. So well done. Our next game at Wesley Park is on the 5th of November, kick off 2 o'clock against MK Dons, and it would be great if we could get many more down there. The demographic, it's very, very young families. It's absolutely a great afternoon out, and it'd be great if we could continue to grow those crowds.
It's been a brilliant start for both our men's and women's teams. On to the supporter questions, and we'll touch on the football department first. From Tony on Facebook, is there a budget to strengthen the squad in the January transfer window?
Tony, there's always ways that we want to improve and we can add to what we've got. It's something the recruitment team has been working on, non-stop since transfer window might shut, but the recruitment never stops. We had five scouts out on Tuesday watching games. I think probably we need to give it context as well. So I think everybody's aware, we've talked about the strategy that we were trying to deliver for this new season. We wanted to bring more energy in. We wanted to bring perhaps a younger dynamic to the team as well. We weren't afraid to invest in transfer fees for that younger talent, and I think people can see what we did in January with Paddy Lane and Riley Towler, going through into the summer, again investing in young talent like Terry Devlin. We did the same again with Cassini Yengi and Christian Sadie. So we're looking at that, but I think we've got really good balance throughout the team at the moment. In every position we can see competition, right from right back into left back, into the two centre halves, midfield. Colby, we try to make sure that he's got really good support and backup with Chris and Cassini as well. So, but we never know what's going to happen over the next few weeks. There could be injuries, there could be different things that can happen, and so we've got an eye. We're already knowing the positions that we want to structure, and I think it's important to recognise that I don't want our recruitment to be short term. It's got to be for the future. It's got to be looking, as we have done over the summer and we've done over the last January window, reduce the reliance on loans and just increase the pool of available young talent that we've got within the squad, adding to the experience as well that we have. So getting that balance right is hugely important to us. So that will very much sort of guide us in the way that we tackle and approach January. But we want to continue to look at every way we can improve and strengthen the squad, and January represents that opportunity as well.
That's it for the football questions. On to stadium and training ground development. We've got Peter. When will the North Stand and Milton End entrance be complete?
Well, only one football question, so that's unusual. So I think it's really good now just to talk about the stadium and perhaps give that a bit more time. So we're very much on budget. We are very much on time as well, which I think in the current conditions for construction projects, particularly over the last few years, is a real tribute and testimony to the contractors that we've used, to Steve Cripps and his team, so diligent in making sure that we can deliver this project and in the timescales that we set out to do. So a lot of things are happening. I think supporters have been coming in game by game. We've been able to see the improvements that have happened particularly in the northeast corner of the stadium. The new control room is starting to take shape. The seats are now installed in that corner as well. The building work on the entrance to that northeast corner as well is coming on. So we think we'll get to Charlton and we will have 2,000 away fans, assuming Charlton take that allocation, which they probably will. And that will be very much a test event for us. We then go into the Bolton game later in November, and I would anticipate by then that we're starting to get to a stage where the control room is operational, and we should get to the point there. We certainly, probably even for the Charlton game, will have both entrances open, and at that point we can then potentially start to put home fans into the Milton End as well. We probably get to Bolton and we'll probably hopefully then have the lifts operational, which will service the North Stand in terms of disabled supporters and those with accessibility issues, and it will also service the upper platform for the away supporters in the Milton, and that will mean for the first time that away fans can watch a game with their supporters at Fratton Park under cover, which the corner, that corner and that lift enables them to do. So that's really, really encouraging. I think then we probably will, by that game against Bolton, we will certainly going into the Fleetwood game, will be relatively complete, probably just a few components, a few toilets that we'll still need to finish off. The bars will all be in place, the entrances will be ready. The new toilet block for females that services the north stand in that northeast corner will be completed as well. So we're getting to a really good stage now where, you know, that first phase of the project is swiftly coming to completion, and that will take the capacity to just under 21,000, probably around about, I think around about probably 20,800, just over. But obviously we won't be able to use every seat because you'll still need segregation points between home and away. So what I'm looking at with Steve and Marie is to try and explore every other single option where perhaps we can add a few more seats here and there. There's going to be a few opportunities in the south stand. We've obviously got a temporary TV gantry in there at the moment in front of the director's box. That too will become seating over time as well once we get the main gantry completed.
Sticking with the Milton End theme, when the work in the Milton End is complete, which entrance will the away fans use? Would it be preferable to put away fans on the south side of the Milton End?
Yeah, I understand that question and where that's coming from. However, there are a few factors here that when, you know, there was a lot of careful thought and planning and design that went into the Milton End. I think the first thing we've already mentioned is we need to get the away fans into a higher level, and the only way we can do that is through the lift shaft. So the new lift that goes in obviously services that particular corner. We then have the fact that the away coaches come in from that end and are dropped off, so they need to get to the most accessible point rather than come round the other corner as well. It's preferable but not essential to have your control room close to the away fans, so that's another factor that comes into consideration as well. But I think one of the most important factors as well is actually if you look at the design and the integration between the Milton corner, the south end of the Milton side, and the south stand sort of east side, you'll see that that actually juts out. So it would be totally inappropriate for away fans to be able to absolutely oversee and overlook what is our family section in that south stand as well. So, you know, we have to look at that, and if we could do it, but it would mean more seats being out of use because we'd have to take those out of use to not get that conflict between away fans and home fans in that corner. So wherever we're going to get it, we're going to get some sort of conflict between home and away fans. I get why the questions come from because it's quite lively in that section of the north stand with the away end as well. But we're going to get the same issues in a different set of issues if we came in from the other side as well. I think the other good thing as well is that we've obviously put a new kiosk and concession in that space in the southeast corner as well, but also a new merchandising unit. So what we'll be looking to do is move home supporters with season tickets into that section of the Milton stand, which we hopefully will be able to do from the beginning of January on a half-season ticket. And there'll be a kiosk in there. There's obviously going to be a better provision of female toilets as well on that upper level. That will be serviced you know, within the area which is currently occupied by the temporary control room. So lots of things happening in there, but yeah, I get it. But I think a lot of thought and design, lots of different options were explored. That was certainly one, but we've come down to where we are. And the beauty is we're going to get to a point where we can segregate home and away fans in different levels. So if we only have 500 or 600 fans turn up on a Tuesday evening or a Saturday, we've got 5 different ways in which we can segregate the Milton. So we can, you know, have our core of season ticket holders, and then we can build further along the away end for the segregation that will come within the stand and obviously on the back concourse as well.
There have been multiple sellouts of home seats at Fratton Park recently. If the trend continues after the Milton End is fully functioning, what can be done to add capacity to Fratton Park?
Yeah, I think the first point is the question I've just answered as well in terms of how we can, you know, dynamically make the Milton stand end for home supporters. But I think this completes phase 1 of the project. As I said, there's potentially some extra seats that we're looking to do. We can add into the south stand, potentially other areas of the ground as well as 1 or 2 other areas. We just want to explore and see whether that works. whether the safety advisory group will give their consent to that as well. But I think we're looking now at the much bigger project going forward, which will be the extension of a north stand in due course and take the capacity up to considerably higher than it is at the moment. Certainly over 25,000 or more is very much the vision that we have in place, which comes as part of our bigger project to develop Fratton Park and develop the land behind it.
Is the installation of the South Stand TV gantry still going ahead?
Yes, it is. We're just working on timing at the moment. It's an expensive project, but it's also a very complicated project in that it requires very heavy cranes to come onto the pitch to do all the steel work that goes across that gantry. But it's something that we will need to do in terms of the new broadcasting deal that's coming in from next season. We've got a stay of execution on that an existing gantry at the moment, but it needs to be improved. So it's all very much part of the architecture. It finishes that particular phase of the project, and that's the last bit that comes in. But yeah, the new TV gantry is certainly still very much on the agenda, and I hope to see that completed very soon.
Queues getting into the Fratton End seem to be taking longer with only 4 turnstiles on the north side. Will the club look at adding extra turnstiles?
Yeah, I think on Tuesday nights it represents a bit of a challenge all round the ground. People tend to obviously naturally tend to arrive later as they're coming in from work. I have looked at this question in advance of the session that we've had and discussed it with Marie Stedman. So we've had a good look at the flow rates that come into Fratton End. We're still very much compliant in terms of the way that works. But naturally, we'll keep an eye on that and continue to monitor it and see what can be done to increase the flow in that particular area at the moment. Indeed, whether we have any other pinch points and entry into the stadium. So yeah, thanks for the question. At the moment, we feel it works okay. We're getting that flow rate through okay. But if we need to add extra turnstiles in the future, if we have problems or aren't compliant, then we'd certainly need to do that.
A question from many of our supporters. Please, can the PA system be upgraded? It was a shame that we couldn't hear Alan Knight and Guy Whittingham's interview last weekend, and in the Fratton End we frequently struggle to hear generic announcements.
Yeah, I accept that problem as well. We're going through a few sort of teething problems at the moment because over the summer we moved our PA system from what is an analogue system to a digital system. And what the digital system enables you to do is set the sound levels by different stands. So there'll be different dynamics, different acoustics in the north to the south stand to the Fratton End. I've been sort of looking at it with a number of supporters in the north stand first of all, and I think the feedback from that is it's much better. The south stand I accept, and it's an area obviously where I watch my football from at Fratton Park, isn't still great at the moment, and that's an area that we still need to work on, and I understand where that comment's coming from. So I think we can get it right. It's just a question of getting the different levels set, getting them together. The Fratton End, we did have a problem for the game against Wickham on the Tuesday, just gone. We had a problem at around about 6:20, where the whole system, PA system, crashed. Now we operate on obviously 2 systems. We have the general entertainment system, which covers the PA announcer and it covers the music, covers the scoreboard system as well. And then we have a separate system for all the emergency announcements that the safety group need to make. Fortunately, the latter, the safety announcements, weren't affected, but we lost all the power and the acoustics for the main system. And it would have been a worry if we'd have lost that safety system because the game wouldn't have been able to go ahead. We were able to get everything back by about 7:30 that evening, so people coming in wouldn't have noticed any difference, but certainly people in there would have wondered why there's no music as the players are warming up. So the problem was for that game we weren't able then to get the sound levels reset by the 3 stands. So we tried to monitor it again against Port Vale on Saturday. I think there was some improvement, but there's still a bit of work to do there. So we got the engineers in with us for the next few games. We'll continue to work as hard as we can to get that right, but we're in a good place. Now we've moved from the analogue to the digital system.
Gary asks, are we going to have LED advertising boards again?
The answer is yes in the future. That is a contrary view to that, in a lot of people saying that the lighting from those boards was affecting their enjoyment of the game. What we're trying to do at the moment is obviously majority of stadiums in English football and indeed at most sports arena now have the digital boards. It obviously brings you increased revenue into the football club. But the system we had was fairly archaic. and the lux levels couldn't be controlled. The lux levels obviously being the level of lighting, that's the output from the boards. So we're working with a new company at the moment. It's likely that we'll try and get a wraparound from the north stand first of all, and then see how we can wrap around a TV arc in both the Fratton and the Milton ends. But the beauty of that system will be we'll be able to adjust the lighting levels throughout the game, and obviously there'll be a different level for evening games than there will be in daylight in the afternoon. So yeah, they will be coming back over time, but it will take probably most of the season before we're in a position to get that new system in place, get the survey done, get all they obviously have to be signed off again by the safety advisory group because they block access onto the pitch, so you need to make sure that you've got the barriers kicked down that can enable supporters to come onto the pitch in the case of an emergency. So that, yeah, they will come back, and it will add to the revenue of the football club. But equally, I want to make sure that we don't impair supporter enjoyment of the games.
Question from Andy. He asks, are there any updates about the proposed walkway feasibility study from Fratton Station to Fratton Park?
Wow, well, that's a really big question, and it's something we debated at the last H&A board. I outlined to the members of that board the strategy going forward. We also talked about it at Tony Goodall Fans Conference last Saturday, and there's quite a bit of detail in the minutes that will be published on the website as well, so people can refer back to those. So I think if I go back over time on this one, we have been working extremely hard behind the scenes. And why are we doing that? Well, anybody who consults the Portsmouth local plan, which sets out all the conditions for future developments throughout Portsmouth, is very positive towards future development of capacity at Fratton Park, development of the land behind us, which we'd like to do for residential. You know, we've got aspirations to probably put about 350 houses on that site. That's critical to the council as well, who have an obligation to build new homes on Portsea Island to fulfil their commitments to central government. So we're a big part of that. We've also got a lot of stuff happening at the Pompey Centre. The owners there are looking to develop that site. I think people can already see the first stages of that with the B&Q building going into 3 sections. So contingent on all that development is to make sure that there is a direct walkway from Fratton Station through to Fratton Park and through the Pompey Centre to make all these things work. And I think the narrative today has always been about the football club. This is purely a footbridge and an access route, which is all about the football club. And yes, it will have huge advantages to us. It will make the walkway much safer. There are big issues at the moment. Whatever people say, post-match, down Goldsmith Avenue is not good. We've got people, you know, I've talked about it several times before, but more and more supporters are coming now and writing to me with concerns that post-match there is a real sort of collision and an accident waiting to happen between traffic and supporters queuing to get on the footbridge, queuing to get onto congested platforms, and that's causing a lot of issues. So I need supporters and supporter groups to all come together to support the football club on this one and be at one, because that's the only way that we're going to get the opportunity to build extra capacity. But it's not just about the football club, and that's why we're working hard with Portsmouth City Council. We're working with South West Railways. We've got obviously M7 who have an interest as well. And you know, this is key because it's about the regeneration of Fratton. It's about regeneration of the areas around us. It's building more homes, and we can't do that without improved infrastructure, transport infrastructure. There's going to be more and more limitations on cars coming into Portsmouth. The City Council itself is, you know, really signed up and committed to clean air in Portsmouth, which has got to be good for, you know, the next generation of people living in Portsmouth and our children and our grandchildren coming through. Really important that, you know, we address this particular issue. And we've done our own travel survey. We have identified, you know, we did that in March. I'm really grateful to supporters who answered it. We had 3,890 people answer the survey. 25% of the respondents lived 25 miles or more away from Fratton Park. We had 15% of people sort of living within 3 miles, probably about 20% living on the island, but a good proportion obviously travelling from outside Portsea Island into Fratton Park on match days. And if we could get a better rail infrastructure into Fratton Station, not just a footbridge, but I think it's putting pressure on, the authorities to improve the station itself. Part of the problem here is the platforms aren't big enough. And one thing that surprised me, it may not surprise other people, but there's three main railway stations on the Portsmouth Island. You've obviously got Fratton, you've got Portsmouth and Southsea, and you've got Portsmouth Harbour. What I didn't appreciate was over 1.5 million entries and exits go through Fratton Station, far more than go through Southsea and Portsmouth Central and Southsea, and far more than go through Portsmouth Harbour. I think it's about 1.45 million go through the harbour and a few less in the central station. So there's a lot to be done here, and that's a project that I'm going to keep it alive. I'm going to do my very best to keep the pressure on. We've got huge support from MPs on this as well, particularly Stephen Morgan, who's working tirelessly to get access into to government to make the case, and working very hard with Network Rail. And I understand one or two supporters are saying that with Network Rail, the way they're set up means they can't invest, and I get that to a certain extent. But they also have within their strategic business review, a commitment to improving safety, a commitment to improving accessibility at their stations, and where there is a case for economic regeneration, to see how that fits and how they can play their part. So those are three particular issues that we are taking to them, and we'll continue to fight as hard as we can for this one, because it's critical, not just for the football club, but to play a part in our whole city and our whole community and making life a lot better. So that's about the railway station. Probably one other thing just to mention at this stage is we're also looking at how we can potentially operate a dedicated park and ride service from the new Tipner Transport Hub, which will shortly see the number of parking spaces increase there, all the way through to Fratton Park on match days. So we need to understand the economic viability of that. Currently 3% of people use bus travel to get to the station. 40% said they would be interested in a dedicated park and ride service. Not so they would use it, but they'd be interested in it. So I think we're duty bound just to explore the viability of that. So a survey will go out over the next few days, inviting supporters who are interested in such a survey as to where they travel in from, how many people they bring with them in the car, what they'd be prepared to pay for the service, and importantly, how far they'd be prepared to walk after the game to pick the bus to go back to the transport hub, because we need to make sure as well as that the best place to position that to get easier access away from Fratton Park back to transport hub to encourage people to use it. So all exciting things that we want to do, and these are all essential components if we're ever going to get planning permission to take the bigger picture on.
That's it for Fratton Park questions. On to one question about the training ground. What's going to happen with the land by Cotton Road and the car park at the Pompey Health and Fitness Club? Also, what will happen with the old five-a-side pitches, as it looks a mess using it as a car park?
Yeah, we've got a big master plan for this site. It's the first phase for that really is now we've done the sort of small improvements here over the summer. The next big phase is to move the first team and the players out of the porter cabins and move them into this main building in the area, which is directly above us, Max, in the canteen. That will enable us to put new analysis rooms in there, new suites, new offices. We can move the academy up there as well. We created dedicated space there. We'll have a gym, we'll have medical facilities as well. The only person who's up there at the moment on his own is Rich Hughes, but he's got a fabulous view of the training pitches, and I'm sure that will be requisitioned by the head coach once he gets his hands into this building. So that's the first project, and once we can do that, then we can start to explore what we do with the area that was previously occupied by play football. There's a couple of the pitches there are ready to be looking at what we can do in terms of 3G, potentially other projects as well. We would like obviously to get a little bit of extra land as well, and then we can improve the number of grass pitches on top of that. So that's a big project we continue to work really, really hard on. I think one thing to say is, and is where we are in terms of our capital investment so far. Obviously Fratton Park has been a project in terms of all those improvements, which will top £12.5 million. There was a big expenditure here, not just on purchasing the training ground, but also in terms of the refurbishment we did to the health club. and what needs to be done upstairs still. So, you're talking again, probably in total another £5 million has been spent so far in terms of the training ground up here. We've got big commitments to do. We've got a TV gantry, obviously, to complete. We've got the area that we want to do here as well. We want to add, obviously, explore, new pitches. That's collateral with the TV gantry. We need to look at, pitches here as well, as we just talked about. So all that requires significant capital investment. So my job here is, because most businesses will fund capital projects out of profits. As a football club, we don't have profits, so I'm hugely dependent on Michael to fund it. Michael's done everything through equity, not through debt, which is great news for the football club going forward. But I have to plan this over a number of years. We just can't suddenly switch the tap on and go on everything. So, lots of competing projects. The groundsman wants the pitches, the first team want the buildings, the broadcasters want the TV gantry, the caterers, are very, very keen to develop like the Victory Lounge and the kitchen, so we can put on even more non-match day facilities and improve the match day experience as well. So all those things are being, sort of got to be costed out and planned over the next few years. But that's what I'm doing. We've got the plan, we've got the projects, and I continually, I've got to make sure that I get the balance right. So the board in turn can work to fund the right projects at the right time.
Brilliant. On to ticketing. Al asks, are there any plans to support digital season tickets so we can put them in our phone wallets?
Al, the answer is yes. It's a development project at the moment. We obviously have the ability for online tickets, in the casual tickets, to be used on parts of phones, but not yet season tickets. And the reason for that is we need to get to the stage where we can pop, block, row numbers on those tickets to go into the wallet. So whereas the ticket itself can potentially go into the wallet, we've got a lot of work still to do, particularly with the Apple development site, to get that ready. So it's a project that Mark Judges, our Director of Sales, and the ticket office team are working on at the moment. I think probably by the time it's properly tested, we're probably looking at the 25-26 season, so probably the season after next, where I would hope that we would have the ability for season tickets to be stored in the phone wallets, which will be a great step forward and obviously reduce costs, but make things far more easier for supporters.
Just one more ticketing question for you. Sai on Twitter asks, could you explain the workings of the loyalty point scheme? For the Reading game, it was 40 plus points and the next window was for 18 plus points. Why does someone with 35 points get the same window as someone with 18 points? Would it not be better to decrease the windows in 10-point blocks?
Wow, that's a mathematical conundrum in terms of the way that Sai's asked that question. Absolutely. It's a very, very complex and complicated system, but it's designed to make it everything fair, particularly for supporters who regularly travel to away games. And we are most grounds. The rules are you get 2,000 maximum tickets or 15% of capacity if lower, and then of course you go to some grounds such as Reading where we can get a few extra, 3,000 for Reading. MK Dons last season, obviously, we had up to 5,500 tickets made available to us as well. Derby, I think we had 3,000 tickets too, which is good news, particularly at a football club, which I'm, really proud to say, demand for tickets often exceeds supply. So we have to have this fair system in place, and it's something that's been worked very closely in consultation with supporter away groups, with the Tony Goodall Fans Conference. We made some tweaks to the system this year so that we could get to a point where season ticket holders got 23 points. That was then added into the existing loyalty points that people held. So the numbers have gone up slightly this year compared to where they were. So what we can start to see now is if we get 2,000 tickets for a game and we know there's going to be high demand, we can look at it and say how many people with loyalty, the top 2,000 people, what are their loyalty point structure? And prior, I think last year, what we were doing was going probably 5-point gaps. And that might seem fair, but what it did do was it had the unintended consequence of if I had 40 points and that was the limit and the next gap went to 35 or 30 points, then my friend couldn't sit next to me because of the way the tickets are allocated. So to go to this system where we put more seats together enables more people to sit together. But it's work in progress. I think the biggest test we've had this season following Leighton Orient, the first game of the season, has been Reading. So I think there's been one or two learnings from that as to how we can improve the system and maybe take on Si's idea as to whether we can maybe bundle the gaps a little bit differently going forward. The next big challenge is going to be Bristol Rovers, because at the moment there is no away end at Bristol Rovers. It's been demolished. They're in the process of getting planning permission for a new stand. Obviously that's not going to be completed in time for Boxing Day. So clubs at the moment have been receiving just 500 tickets. I think that the next game coming up, that's been extended up to 700 for the visit of Exeter City. But clearly for Boxing Day and for Bristol Rovers, there's going to be a situation where the loyalty points scheme will be set at a much higher bar. So we'll look at that one again, and again we'll keep consulting, we'll keep reviewing it to get it right. It's very complex. It takes an incredible and inordinate amount of time for the ticket office staff to manage. There's very little financial reward because we only retain 5% of revenue from the sale of away tickets. We're basically a ticketing agent. But it's important we do it fairly, and it's important we do put the resource into it to make sure that those fans who do travel regularly to support Pompey on the road do get the first set of tickets. But yeah, I take Si's point, and it's something that we'll continue to look at and maybe take that idea on board based on the fact that, you know, we do know now how many supporters and how many loyalty points fall into different increments.
Now, we spoke about the men's and women's team at the start of the video. The Academy had yet another first team debut on Tuesday night in Mitchaston. A really proud moment for them.
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted for the Academy, particularly delighted and thrilled for Mitch and his family as well to be able to get onto the pitch at Fratton Park at, you know, such a positive time for the football club. That's absolutely fantastic. And obviously earlier in the season we had Kobe Motto as well, you know, make his debut at Forest Green. So, you know, it's real progression to see the Academy players get that opportunity. Some more of them have been on the bench this season for first team fixtures as well. Throughout the Academy we're seeing real signs of progress. We've obviously seen a number of staff make the grade from, you know, make the step up from the Academy into the first team. Max Whittingham obviously being the latest individual to do that as well, and congratulations to Max. You know, he's joined Zesh Raymond in terms of, again, moving from the Academy to the first team. So we're in a really good place. We continue to strengthen, bring some new staff in. It's a very young, energetic, dynamic, got some really good goals in terms of, you know, what we want to achieve. We've got to get to a situation where, you know, we reduce dependence on the number of facilities that we use around the island, and hopefully, you know, as I said earlier on, that comes with the transformation of what we can do up here at the training ground and potentially one or two other sites that we continue to keep our eyes on.
Now we're going to finish on retail, and a question that is on most fans' lips. Can we release the white Nike Pompey t-shirts that the players have been pictured wearing rather than just the blue ones that are on sale at the moment?
Well, I think that's been really popular. There's been some really positive feedback to it, and that's something we will take back to Nike and see if we can make that happen. Can't make any promises, but that's something, yeah, if there's demand for it, we can work together as the spirit of our partnership to try and make that happen. Obviously thrilled with the way that retail has really gone from, you know, leaps and bounds this year. We have obviously had a record amount of home shirts sold this year, hugely popular design. The away shirt too has been hugely popular too. So we're seeing the retail business at the moment grow really bit, and that actually was before a ball kick. So obviously success on the pitch will have an impact, but right from the start, you know, the season of having shirts in early, I think made a big difference. You know, we've made that a real priority over the last month to get the shirts in as early as we possibly could. So that's been something that we want to continue to grow and listen to supporters' feedback and build on things like the retro shirts we've done. The 125 range has gone down well too. So those are all areas that we want to continue and work in partnership with both Nike and Just Sport.
Penultimate question from Gary on Facebook. Why is there no Staggeringly Good beer anymore?
It's a disgrace that there's no Staggeringly Good in the Victory Lounge at the moment, but there are some bottles that are being sold in the Victory Lounge. We obviously had draft there last year. Unfortunately, the agreement we have with Green King means that we cannot pour Staggeringly Good through the Green King dispense units. So we have an arrangement where we can use a separate system. Last season when we put it in, we had issues with refrigeration and fobbing of the pipes. So we're working with Staggeringly Good at the moment to put a new system into place, which means that we can resurrect draft Staggeringly Good back into the Victory. I'd like to put it into the as well into the concourses, but we're unable to do that under the terms of the agreement. We managed to get that exemption into the Victory Lounge, and obviously we can't sell bottles or cans in there as well. At the moment, there's not like a PET alternative that we can serve that into. So no, we're very, very happy. I'm very pleased with the work that Piglets have done overall in terms of the kiosks. Their first year, they doubled the revenue, and this year we're already seeing a 40% increase in terms of food and drink sales at the stadium. So they're making a massive impact. We now can roll out the priority system. I think some supporters have called it the smug queue at half time, which enables you to quickly get a pint. That's come with its own challenges now, because I think more and more people are taking advantage of that, and we're having to create some more storage units so that we can tee more pints up to be instantly dispensed to supporters at half time in the North Stand where we're currently using it. Hopefully soon we can extend that to other areas of the ground as well. So constantly looking to improve in every area of this football club, you know, be it on the pitch but also off the pitch as well. And I think we're seeing some good early wins, but still a huge amount to do. And sessions like this, Max, are brilliant because it's given us ideas, it's given us feedback. It's showing us the direction that we need to move forward to as a football club, and I'm incredibly grateful to supporters who not only, you know, send us these ideas on this, but, you know, for the people who approach me on match days and ask, make ideas, make suggestions, and when they're not followed through, make sure they tell me again at the next game. So long may that continue, because that's the way we will improve.
Yeah, and just one final question to finish. We've started on football and we're going to finish on gin. Tanya on Facebook asks, can you bring back the gin bar in the South Stand?
Oh, I know Tanya. I know the group that really enjoyed again a new significant innovation that Piglets brought in last year was that gin bar, and that's in the upper section, central section of the South Stand, yeah, that is coming back. We've had to do some alterations in that particular kiosk at the moment, so yeah, we'll have the gin back in there and hopefully be able to celebrate a glass with Tanya and all the group in that South Stand who found that, you know, a great addition last year. So Piglets will be bringing that back, and hopefully, if not for the next game, certainly for the game after.
Brilliant. That's it for the questions. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Max, and thanks to everybody who took the time and trouble to ask questions. We got through quite a few today, and you know, we'll do more of these later on in the season as well. And perhaps we can look as well as doing some with, you know, other members of staff in the club as well, so people get the chance to answer some specific questions in areas as well as the Chief Executive.